That's a horror movie for you.
That is a great horror movie. Well,
Okay.
I already spoiled my opinion, but
Well, bottom line, if you haven't seen The Descent, we're gonna give you the 30-second version right now. If you haven't seen the movie, just go now and watch it.
just push pause, minimize this little window,
and come
watch
back
it.
to this, because this movie is hands down one of my all-time favorite films, really. Like, probably top 20 films.
Oh, great. Okay.
This movie, it scared the bejesus out of me when I saw this for the first time. I could not believe it.
And easily one of the best horror films in the last 10, 20 years.
It's incredible. So let's talk a little bit about why this film's so effective, what works about it, and your thoughts.
Sure.
First and foremost, the movie having all I think I could be getting my dates wrong, but I think it takes place before the Hostel films, or it was released before the Hostel films.
I think it came out at the same year.
Around the same time. So like the idea of an all-female horror cast kind of was very interesting.
Yeah.
But especially the characters are especially interesting because they're all adrenaline junkies.
Yeah.
So, they're doing stuff like, river rafting and they want to do some cave diving, that kind of stuff.
Spelunking.
Yeah.
That good stuff.
So the movie opens, though, with one of the most traumatic moments
it's
ever captured on film.
unforgettable. And this takes place like a year before the rest of the film. And so
that really I think that really sets the tone.
Oh, yeah. Because first it's like fun. It's just like going down the river.
Yeah.
We're not thinking much of it. Then there's this horrific car crash where Sarah, the main character played by Shauna McDonald, her husband and her daughter
get impaled by rebar.
Yes.
And it is
very
just,
gruesome accident.
It's very gruesome. And that's just like that's the movie.
Yeah.
Like you're in for a wild ride.
But even after that, what follows, I think for the next 45 minutes is a very slow burn.
Yeah, it's a real slow burn, and I remember one of my favorite experiences watching this movie was watching it for the first time with my fiance, and she was like, "Oh, it's just this, they're just going cave diving, like, or they're just going spelunking, like that's no big deal." And like, yeah, there's a ton of psychological horror that takes place in this movie.
Yeah, the claustrophobia.
The claustrophobia, and then you have this baggage from the accident at the beginning.
Yeah.
Listen, the worst thing that could have happened to you has already happened, okay? And you're still here. This is just a poxy cave, and there's nothing left to be afraid of, I promise.
Let's just say this film is gorgeous too.
Oh yeah,
this is
it's so well shot.
written and directed by Neil Marshall, but like this first scene where they're coming down into the cave.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful, and
Yeah.
they get down in there, and then the photography changes to just all this close quarters stuff,
Yeah.
especially when it's like one person trying to shimmy through a tube at a time.
It's great.
And if you are afraid of tight and close spaces, the first half of this movie might be more terrifying than the second half, actually.
Yeah, so because the movie does take a huge turn. It makes a big jump.
Yeah.
It goes from psychological, claustrophobia, more like what am I hearing, what am I seeing, sort of stuff with like are you afraid of the dark sort of feel, into this survival horror film where they're being hunted by these creatures that have developed, they're like humanoids that have developed, like almost like mole people.
Yeah, they've been down there a very long time, and so they've evolved to the habitat,
And
sort of.
the reveal of these creatures is one of the best shots ever.
Yeah.
And
are you talking about the camera part?
Yeah, the camera. She has her infrared camera.
Yeah.
And she's looking around in the dark, and she comes around someone, and it's just standing
Oh my
right
gosh.
behind her.
Yeah. Very unsettling.
It's
to say
so
the least.
amazing.
And it's sort of like having fun with the found footage
Yeah.
genre, kind of, because they're like, oh yeah, you have whole movies made of that. We're just gonna have one scene of that.
Yeah,
and get
and
it out of the
so
way.
effective.
Yeah.
Because they use it there, and then it's done. And that's it.
And we get little glimpses of something that
Right.
could be down there before that scene. One of my favorites is when they're just walking by. We think it's one of the natural formations in this cave because it's like a black outline of something. And the girls are walking by in the background, and then whatever this thing in the foreground is opens its mouth and some drool comes out. And oh my gosh, we're going to figure out what that thing is. So after that reveal, once we understand what they're down there with, it sort of turns into a slasher of sorts, but it's going both ways. It's going both girl on girl, girl on beast, and beast on girl. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, because there's some baggage. I like how it's really so well done in the way that there's just so many layers to the story that get peeled back every 20 minutes or so. There's like this new revelation, and in most horror movies, I feel like that is just so really like it's like don't muck it up with some story. Your story, like the story is secondary, but in this film, it's really story driven, and it enhances the overall experience.
Yeah, this woman she's become a widow and she lost her child, and so that is still very resonant throughout. I mean, and it even leads all the way up into the ending. And there's 2 endings.
Right, now there's 2 endings. So we should talk about the 2 endings. I personally like the unrated version of the film a lot more.
Yeah.
I find it a lot more disturbing and just heart-wrenching at the end. So if you haven't seen the unrated cut, which if you saw it in theaters, you didn't see that one. You saw the unrated cut. But in the unrated cut, Sarah finally makes it to freedom. She's so happy. She's like crying.
And can I just say that the music there is incredible.
Oh my,
I listened to this track. This is the title track. Yeah. It's called The Descent.
It's incredible.
This is Julian, the guy who does the music for a lot of Christopher Nolan's early films, all the way from Following. This is just a gorgeous piece of music, and I listen to it all the time. But anyway, so she's
going, and she's escaped, and she's like, yes, 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 and she starts driving. She gets in the car. She's so beside herself.
Yeah.
And then she looks over in her passenger seat, and there's like this dead girl
Juno,
sitting in the car, and she realizes that it was all a dream, and she's back in the cave.
Yeah. And so the theatrical version ended there.
Right.
When she looked and saw her friend. It was a little bit of a jump moment.
Yeah.
But then the unrated version takes her back into the cave.
Right.
It's completely hopeless.
Because
And I prefer the unrated version because it completely negates the possibility of its sequel in my mind, which never should have happened, and let's just say never did.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's back there in the cave, and it's this amazing shot because I believe it's one take where they sort of show her with her daughter. They're celebrating their birthday, and then it pans back, and we realize it's just her with the flame.
Yeah, and you hear like the shrieks, and you could tell they're getting closer and closer. The movie works on so many levels.
And when the bloodletting begins, it's so satisfying from
that. It really is.
When she emerges from this pool of blood, it's almost like her rebirth, and she's like this Amazon woman who's going to destroy anyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I cannot recommend The Descent highly enough, and it was highly regarded in its day. It still has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing film. If you guys haven't seen The Descent, you need to go and watch it immediately.
Hopefully you didn't listen to the rest of this if you hadn't, but but hopefully you agree. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Thank you for watching. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm JS.